Hi, I'm Jen Rogers at Nasdaq Market Site, and this is Breakthrough Economy. Today, we dive into the promising advancements in immuno-oncology, examining key innovations and exploring just what the new face of cancer treatments could look like. I'm joined by Dr. Pam Sharma, professor and director of scientific programs for the James P. Allison Institute at MD Anderson Cancer Center, and Niko Kley, co-founder and CEO of Orionis Biosciences. So Pam and Niko, thank you both so much for joining us. Niko, I just want to get started with you right now and talk about what you think, from where you sit, the biggest innovation or breakthrough that you think has transformed immuno-oncology in the last 5 years is.
So over the last 5 to 10 years, we've learned a lot about how the immune system confronts cancers. But as you know, cancer is a very heterogeneous disease. There are many root causes of cancers, and tumors are capable of acquiring different types of mutations that allow them to change, thrive, and spread. And dealing with this heterogeneity has been really one of the major challenges in oncology overall. The field of immuno-oncology seeks to leverage the immune system's natural capabilities to see a diversity of cells, in particular diversity of harmful cells, such as virus-infected cells and cancer cells.
How would you describe the current state of biotech treatments for cancer? Where are we in the evolution?
I feel that we're at a major inflection point in the field. A better understanding of the mechanics of the cancer immunity cycle, technological developments in the design and engineering of drugs, and in particular lessons, as you've mentioned, learned from patient responses or the lack thereof to current immunotherapies such as checkpoint inhibitors, are paving the way to new cancer therapies. For example, current checkpoint inhibitors largely work by releasing molecular brakes that cancer cells impose on the immune system. Although checkpoint inhibitors represent a breakthrough in cancer therapy, the reality is that the majority of patients do not respond to such treatments. So we have to evolve new ways to restart and modulate the cancer immunity cycle, and importantly, to do so in a safe manner and in a broader patient population.
So for decades, doctors have relied on systemic treatments like chemo. And now it is all about this sort of targeted medicine. And at your company, you're really talking about precision breakthroughs. So what are the advances that you are working on right now specifically?
Well, there are several frontiers that we're trying to kind of work towards, as many others, and they relate primarily to the development of immunotherapies that address and have an impact on broader patient populations and cancer types. In other words, we need more blockbusters that work in settings where current therapies do not, and do so safely with limited or no side effects. So at Orionis, we're focused on developing new ways to modulate and restart the cancer immunity cycle I was talking about before, and at multiple positions of the cycle to address a broad cross-section of cancer types. And ideally to do so and by instilling an immunological memory that is cancer immunity.
What is AKINE? How would that be different? And what would that platform that you're working on mean for the larger immuno-oncology space?
Harnessing the power of cytokines has been a longstanding objective in immuno-oncology. In fact, cytokines were actually indeed the first approved immunotherapies. However, they never lived up to their promise in the past, as I've mentioned before. So one example, to provide an example of a naturally occurring cytokine, is called interferon. It's a key cytokine messenger that is essential for the immune system to mount an anti-tumor response. And it was hailed as a potential magic bullet in the 1980s when it was discovered, even made the cover of Time magazine, but it quickly proved to be toxic, limiting its potential therapeutic use, similar to what you were referring to as cytokine release storm. So the challenge is to restrict the action of cytokines to only those cells, in particular immune cells, we want them to be active at, so that they don't elicit a storm and broad side effects. Then we can harness the therapeutic potential of these cytokines. So at Orionis, our AKINEs are designer cytokines, which are engineered so that they're directed to act only where we want them to, and nowhere else. So we've developed something akin to a lock and a key mechanism where the cytokine is modified with a key that enables it to deliver a message only when it finds a corresponding lock on the target cell of interest, thereby limiting its powerful effect to exactly where we want it, like a precision medicine that is selectively targeted to the target cells of interest. So by using different cytokines with different properties, and by using different sets of locks and keys, we can now modulate and restart the immune cycle, the cancer immunity cycle, in a rational way to go after different types of cancers and do so with precision.
Aside from what you're working on right now, can you share with us what has you most excited, where you think the biggest opportunities are in the immuno-oncology space or biotech overall? Like when you think about something that has you just so excited for the future breakthrough, what is it?
It's a couple of things. Ultimately, I think that we're going to make cancer a much more manageable disease, or potentially even more interesting, even a preventable one. Now, as our understanding of the immune system continues to develop, and as we figure out, as I've described before, how we can manipulate and exploit it, we have the opportunity to develop more targeted approaches that increase effectiveness while minimizing side effects and toxicities associated with traditional cancer therapies. Improvements in diagnostics, for example, could mean that more cancers get detected before they cause symptoms or are visible on a scan. So combine that with safe and targeted treatments that activate the immune system against the cancer before it grows and spreads.
Exciting stuff. Niko Kley, thank you so much for joining us. So, Dr. Sharma, thank you so much for joining us. There is so much excitement in the cancer space as treatments move beyond standard chemo regimens. In the immuno-oncology space, what do you think have been the biggest breakthroughs in the last 5 years, and how have you been able to apply them to your work at MD Anderson?
So we have really looked at immune checkpoint therapy and CAR T cell therapies as the big breakthroughs in immuno-oncology. And that really came about from understanding the basic science, the foundational science about what governs immune cells. And one of the most important immune cells in your body is T cells. Of course, there are multiple immune cells. There are T cells, B cells, myeloid cells, dendritic cells. But the T cells was the first where we understood how it's regulated. How does it function? What's the on switch and what's the off switch? And so immune checkpoint therapy took advantage of that to block the off switch on T cells to allow them to keep going for much longer, which will then get rid of cancers. And in CAR T cells, we learned how to engineer the T cells outside of the body and then give them back into patients so that they can recognize specific tumor antigens. So I think these are the two major breakthroughs. And now we're seeing more and more in my clinical practice that patients, regardless of what they have, if it's bladder cancer or kidney cancer, for example, they're still responding very well to these immune checkpoint therapy agents targeting T cells. So the cancer type doesn't seem to matter because it's the immune response targeting the cancer. And multiple kinds of patients now can have benefit from immune checkpoint therapy with lots of FDA approvals. We've also seen FDA approvals of the CAR T cells in the hematologic malignancies and leukemias and those. And so it's very exciting now to see how both of those will move forward, not just in metastatic disease where patients have lots of disease throughout their body, but even an earlier disease in combination with things like radiation therapy and surgery.
Everyone has read these headlines out there about sort of miracle treatments, right? People being cured, studies with incredible results, but also people all likely have a friend or relative who is still battling a cancer. So how long is it going to take for immuno-oncology breakthroughs to really become the standard of care, to be available to everyone?
So it's the standard of care in certain settings. So as I mentioned, we have FDA approvals in bladder cancer and kidney cancer and melanoma and head and neck cancers. You know, the list goes on and on. So there are FDA approvals, so it should be widely available to patients who have those types of cancers. Now, of course, we are only seeing about 30 to 40% of patients who respond, and we need to do better. So the next step is the rational combination strategies. How do we take the current approved therapies and combine them with the next set of breakthroughs that are coming, right? Can we really understand myeloid cells? Can we really understand dendritic cells? Those are the other components of the immune system that helps T cells to do their job. So if we can get to the basic science of understanding those, then we can also translate them and have the appropriate combination therapies to treat even more patients and have it more widely available.
And do you think that the pandemic and all the work that was done cross-institution and outside of silos and cooperation has given some lessons for how to work together and really invigorate more breakthroughs here?
Absolutely. I think the pandemic gave us like the blueprint for how to not only have, patients and physicians come together to solve a problem, but also showed us what we need to do outside of just the pandemic. We really need to take advantage, for example, of the fact that we had telehealth, that we were able to like have patients on treatment who weren't coming into our clinic. So can we have clinical trials accruing patients broadly without making them have to go to a big academic center? So those are important things. The other thing was that it also gave us the opportunity to see how a vaccine can really work, right? And you can get responses. So can we combine vaccine therapies against cancer with immune checkpoint therapy? And I think those are the things that the pandemic has really fueled now, and we will see more of that moving forward.
Dr. Pam Sharma, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to have both of you on Breakthrough Economy. Thanks so much.